Hello and welcome back to Football Daily. Today we're running through 11 players that didn't deserve big money moves. Let's go. Goalkeeper, Jasper Cillessen. If you're going to make a shady transfer swap which seems custom made to get around FFP, you could at least try to hide it. But Barcelona and Valencia didn't care at all in the summer of 2019, when they sold each other a keeper for €35 million. Neto joining the Blaugrana before June the 30th, and Jasper Cillessen going the other way in July, a few days after the beginning of the new financial year. Both stoppers are 30, but while Neto had played 67 of 76 league matches in the previous 2 years, Cillessen boasted just 5 appearances in the 3 years since leaving Ajax for the Spanish Giants. That meant the Dutchman cost Barca roughly €3 million per league game, and earned as many medals as matches in the red and blue shirt. But Valencia's move made even less sense, spending the second highest fee in their history on a guy who had made just 18 saves since 2016. In fairness to the Copa del Rey holders, Cillessen has proved a reliable stopper, ranking 9th among La Liga keepers for save percentage this season. But given that he's the most expensive of the lot, you might hope for him to crack the top 5. Right back, Serge Aurier. Tottenham right-back Serge Aurier could have moved to North London rivals in 2014 when he was still at Toulouse, but Arsene Wenger plunked for Callum Chambers, a decision which would turn out to have problems of its own. But it seemed to have worked out for the Ivorian when he moved to PSG, winning 2 titles and 11 trophies overall with the capital club. However, there were warning signs. Aurier's defensive numbers understandably dropped in a more dominant side, from a credible 7 tackles and interceptions per 90 to 4, but there was no rise in his attacking numbers. Having been involved in 12 league goals in his last year with Toulouse, he contributed the same figure in the next 3 years with the Parisians. And he also embarrassed himself off the pitch, assaulting a policeman outside a club and broadcasting a video of himself online in which he called then-manager Laurent Blanc a homophobic slur and insulted Angel Di Maria. Nonetheless, Tottenham handed PSG a £14 million profit on the defender, taking him to White Hart Lane for around £23 million. And while his defensive output remains solid, winning possession more than 5 times a game, he's more erratic than ever, earning as many red cards in the last 3 seasons as he did in the 8 years before that. Centre-back, Costas Manolas. These days we have a pretty decent idea of whether attackers will be any good. Shots, dribbles and key passes are affected by team quality and tactics, but talent tends to shine through. Defenders though are still a mystery, as they rely so much on system, meaning that sometimes a player can come to be regarded as top class without any evidence to back that up. Costas Manolas is one such player. A big tough centre-back who seemed like he might have been good at Roma, but no one was quite sure. His tackles and interceptions were always fine, around 3 a match, and his aerial win rate at 65% was pretty good. But he always committed more than a foul a game, a lot for a centre-back, getting himself carded roughly every 4 matches for the Giallorossi. As a result, though Arsenal, Man United and Chelsea were heavily linked with Manolas, none of them ever made a serious move, leaving him to Napoli, who paid €36 million for the defender. The consequence has been a huge decline for the Blues, getting Ancelotti sacked and putting them on track for their joint worst defensive performance in Serie A since 1998. Not the return you want on the 3rd biggest fee in your history. Centre-back, Michael Keane. Now in his 3rd full season at Everton, Michael Keane's move to Merseyside was never going to be smooth sailing. The Stockport-born defender made his name at Burnley in a system where the defenders rarely left the edge of their box. But a Toffee side looking up at the Champions League spots under Ronald Koeman decided to spend around £30 million on the centre-back, despite no concrete interest from the rest of the league, and a huge stylistic difference between the teams. Keane is now up to 6 different managers in under 3 years at Goodison, but at 27 is hardly the reliable presence the club must have hoped for. His job description went from mostly making clearances with over 7 a game in his final year at Turf Moor to playing out from the back, his passes per game rising from around 30 a match to nearly 50 a match in the current campaign. The new style also required him to play on the front foot, and while he records better tackle and interception numbers than he did under Sean Dyche, he still wins possession less than 3 times per 90 and fails with a quarter of his tackles, worse in both regards than youngster Mason Holgate, who now keeps Keane out of the side. Ultimately, the Englishman's chief value has been showing why a good player in one side may be merely mediocre in another, one of many big misses for Everton over the last half-decade. Left back, David Zappacosta. As good as Antonio Conte is, the manager does have a tendency to demand weird players when he joins a new side, preferring people who fit the system rather than out-and-out quality. That's why Chelsea acquired 25-year-old wing-back Zappacosta in 2017, forking out £23 million for the Torino defender as they sought to defend the Premier League title for the 2nd time in their history. Though able to play on both sides of the back line and only having Marcos Alonso and Victor Moses ahead of him in the pecking order, the Italian rarely featured, starting just 12 league matches and earning under 1,100 minutes overall. In that time, he produced just 1 goal and 1 assist, while Alonso ended the year with 9 goal involvements and Moses with 6. And he was a less active defender than the notoriously sloppy Spaniard too, regaining the ball under 3 times per 90. In 2018-19, he played only 4 times and returned to Italy with Roma that summer, only to rupture his cruciate ligament 2 months later. With 2 years left on his contract, the Blues may be forced to pay him up to his 30th birthday. Midfielder, Nemanja Matic. At his peak, Nemanja Matic was among the most fearsome defensive midfielders in the Premier League. Brought back to Chelsea by Mourinho after 2.5 years with Benfica, the Serbian was so effective that he could be fielded alongside Cesc Fabregas in the centre of the park, making up for the Spaniard's questionable work rate with an incredible 5.8 tackles and interceptions per game. But Matic wasn't just a destroyer, he also completed 1.6 dribbles a match and found his target with 70% of his long balls, a surprisingly cultured mix for a 6'4" man mountain. And when he fell out of favour at Chelsea, Man United and then boss Mourinho leapt at the chance to sign him, paying the Blues £40 million for his services. Unfortunately, they did so the day before Matic's 29th birthday, and with the Serb in decline. In his first year at Old Trafford, he won possession 3.8 times a game. The next year it was 2.9, and now it's just 2.6, while he also sank to under a dribble a match in 2018-19. In a weak United side, Matic looked especially slow and vulnerable. After getting just 1 passable year in exchange for £40 million, it goes to show that it doesn't matter how much money you have if you don't know how to use it. Midfielder, Joao Mario. As a general rule, paying a huge fee for someone out of the Portuguese league is not the best idea. You're as likely to get a Hulk or Jackson Martinez as a James Rodriguez or Angel Di Maria, but that hasn't stopped some sides doing luxury shopping in the top tier of Portugal. Inter got their fingers burned in 2016 when they spent £36 million bringing Joao Mario to Italy, after the midfielder produced 6 goals and 11 assists for Sporting Lisbon the previous campaign. Having changed green and white for black and blue, Mario's output immediately dropped to 8 goal involvements in 2,000 minutes, a tally bettered by 5 players in the Inter squad. And while creators like Benega and Brozovic also mucked in with defensive work, Mario ranked 14th for tackles per game out of the 17 Inter stars who played more than 1,000 league minutes. He was 11th for interceptions too, and when Inter finished 7th, they quickly lost patience in their pricey star, sending him out to West Ham on loan after 18 months, where he put up the worst defensive, dribble and key pass figures of his professional career. Currently spending the 2019-20 season on loan at Lokomotiv Moscow, Mario's contract at the San Siro finally runs out this summer, and it's hard to imagine a stampede for the 27-year-old's signature. Midfielder, Thomas Lemar. When Atletico Madrid paid €65 million for Thomas Lemar in 2018, few people thought it would be a total waste of money. But there were warning signs. Man City paid the same amount for Laporte, and Arsenal paid slightly less for Aubameyang in the same year, while Lemar himself was coming off a season in which he'd contributed only 10 league goals, down from 19 the campaign before. More importantly, Lemar was not the open play creator Diego Simeone wanted him to be. Of the 129 chances the Frenchman made in the 2 years before his big move, 45% came from free kicks and corners, meaning his value to Atleti, who already had Koke on set pieces, was lower than to another team. His XG also painted an unflattering picture, with his last 29 goal involvements coming from under 25 expected ones, suggesting that his middling numbers were actually a little inflated already. As a consequence, in a team with little attacking support, Lemar went from taking 1.8 shots a game to 1.3, while passes into the final third in the penalty area dropped too. Even his dribbling and defensive output failed to tick up, meaning that after 2 years in Spain, Lemar's value has more than halved, with Transfermarkt now rating him at just £27 million. The sooner Atletico can cut their losses and move on, the better. Forward, Nicolas Pepe. It's pretty clear at this point that Nicolas Pepe is a very talented player and will go on to be excellent for Arsenal despite a ropey 6 months at the Emirates. But was their huge investment warranted? In order to stump up the £72 million that Lille asked for the Ivorian, Arsenal sold Alex Iwobi, leaving them light on the left flank and meaning that Pepe didn't just need to be good, he needed to almost double Iwobi's output to be worth the gamble. And so far, he hasn't quite produced. Despite recording huge dribble figures with over 4 a game ranking 5th in the Prem, he's only contributed a goal or assist every 224 minutes, compared to Iwobi's record of 1 every 220 minutes in his final year in London. And Arsenal's overpay was fairly obvious to anyone who watched Ligue 1 in 2018-19. As brilliant as Pepe was, 9 of his 22 league goals for Lille were penalties, making it look to the casual observer like he was a goal-a-game forward, and in the process boosting his price from maybe £50 million or £60 million to the club record sum the Gunners paid. Perhaps Pepe will go on to be one of the best in the division, but if he doesn't, how much will Mikel Arteta's team regret not simply keeping Iwobi and investing the spare £30 million in a centre-back? If they continue to miss out on Champions League football, the cost will be clear. Forward, Antoine Griezmann. Going into 2019-20, it's fair to say that most football supporters were fans of Antoine Griezmann, but when Barcelona paid €120 million for the forward, alarm bells were ringing. The Frenchman will turn 29 before the end of the current season, making him a short-term signing, and his numbers look to be on the downslope, despite Barca fans claiming that his output had been stifled by Simeone's defence-first system. But after 6 months, it's clear that's not the case. Griezmann has 11 goals and assists at present, which is fine but not spectacular, and his XG numbers are the worst they've been since 2014, with 0.4 a game way below his peak of 0.7 and level with Sheffield United's Oliver McBurney for the season. He's currently taking just 2 shots a match, his worst ever performance, and equaling his lowest tallies for dribbles and key passes since he broke through at Real Sociedad in 2010, meaning that far from relieving the burden on Messi, he's actually added to it. As well as costing Barcelona the 5th biggest fee in football history, Griezmann also cost the Blaugrana the opportunity to invest that money more wisely. For instance, in a striker like Timo Werner, a winger like Jadon Sancho, or a future Ballon d'Or winner like Kylian Mbappe. And with a huge stadium redevelopment in progress and Luis Suarez increasingly injury-prone, Barcelona have spent a fortune on a mistake they'll need to correct within 2 years. Forward, Josh King. Now our final entry may be cheating, as he didn't get his move in the end, but Manchester United made a concerted effort to bring former academy player Josh King back to the club in January 2020, and if it had gone through, it would have been a move even stranger than their eventual capture of ex-Watford striker Ighalo, who came in on loan after 3 campaigns in the Chinese Super League. The Red Devils supposedly offered £28 million for the Bournemouth forward, who they sold to Blackburn for £1.1 million in 2013, and who joined the Cherries on a free transfer 2 years later. But the idea never made sense. After half a season, King has just 3 goals to his name, and while he has twice grabbed double figures in the Prem, he's only contributed to a goal every 200 minutes since arriving in the top flight, never hitting 2.5 shots or 1.5 key passes per 90. And he's not even the best attacker at the Vitality Stadium, with Callum and Harry Wilson both ahead of him in the scoring charts. To make the notion even more nonsensical, the Norwegian is now 28, and hard to fit into United's policy of targeting youngsters with the potential to become stars. Instead, signing King would have been worse than an expensive quick fix, an expensive move which fixed nothing at all. So that's our team of players that didn't deserve big money moves. Let us know in the comments if you think we missed out on any players. And if you enjoyed this video, please do like it and subscribe to the channel for more great content. Bye for now.